everyone. My name is Dr. B. Pope with Transforming Couples, and I hope that you're having a fantastic day. I know I'm very excited because this webinar will talk about relationships. And relationships, a lot of people think that relationships is just about the relationship that you might have with your boyfriend or girlfriend, but relationships are very vast. You think about the relationships that you have in your household with your parents, your mom, dad, sisters and brothers. That's a relationship. The relationships that you have, with your coworkers, that's a relationship. The relationship that you have, with the people that you just hang out with, your buddies, your homeboys, or your sisters, that's a relationship. So relationships are general and they're broad. And what does the term relationship mean? Just quick and simple, it's the connectiveness between you and someone else. And it could be others, two or more people, but it's between you and someone else. And like I always tell people is that we're created to have relationships. I mean, there's no island. No one is an island. No one can just do everything by themselves. We are created in the image of God, so we're social beings. And if someone tells you differently, they're not. Even people who I've spoken with and who I've helped over the years who swear that they are loners, who swear that they don't want to be around other people, but deep down inside, they really want those types of relationships. They really do want meaningful relationships with someone. And I'm just telling you that we're created that way. Now, today I want to just talk about a few things when it comes to relationships, when it comes to men. Jay-Z a few weeks ago dropped his 444 album. I hadn't listened to the old album, but I heard that it was great. But I know I've listened to one song where he talks about how he wished that he can kind of go back and change some things with his wife, Beyonce. He lets everyone knows that he wasn't faithful to her, that he wasn't mature enough. I mean, all of these different things, and a lot of people are talking about that right now. But in my eyes, I really just respect Jay-Z for just coming out with that. But I believe that he opened up the Pandora's box when it came to emotions, and especially with men and emotions, men and relationships. Because I know that I've heard that men need to be vulnerable. Men need to talk about, their feelings. I was on a radio show a few months ago and I was talking about the same things. And don't you know that people criticized me? People were calling, brothers were calling like, look, man, don't go there. That's crazy. Men shouldn't be that way. Men shouldn't show their emotions. But now since Jay-Z is saying it, a lot of people are talking about it now. So I want you to just take a few minutes out to watch this clip, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it a little bit later, okay?
No, this is like, everybody wants to be needed on some level. I feel like women often feel like you're a man, and it's just like, okay, so does that mean we don't have emotions?
People see your family, they see Instagram pictures of you smiling and happy and stuff all the time. They don't think you got real issues. You know what I mean? I don't think you have to sleep back to back, like climbing in the bed and you like look over there and you got that back roll though. That's the worst feeling in the world.
What I thought was when I met my dad was, oh, I'm free to love now. But it's like, okay, yeah, but how are you going to do it? You want to do it. I get it. But now how are you going to do it? You've never done this before. No one informs you how to do this. You don't even have the tools to do it. Oh, no, but I'm going to do it because I'm ready. And that's why I say, you mature faster than me. I wasn't ready. Like all these things are, again, this is my real life. I just ran into this place and we built this big, beautiful mansion of a relationship. You know what I mean? That wasn't totally built on the 100% truth. And then it started cracking, and then things start happening that the public can see. You know what I'm saying? And then we had to go to a point and be like, okay, tear this down. And let's start from the beginning. And it's hard. Remember, we just talked about me. I'm from Marcy Projects and shot at all kind of, nothing's harder than this. By far, I'm telling you, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And most people, most humans, us, we're not willing to put ourselves through that. Most people give up.
I'm not as
I had to learn how to treat somebody else as good as I wanted to treat myself, because growing up, like in our environments where we grew up, I grew up in a household like the only person you know treat good is your mom. My dad was dead, my sister. You in neighborhoods, cutthroat neighborhoods, people killing, all types of stuff. Cops sending people to jail for no reason. You do for yourself before you do for anybody. So, you know, as time went by, I had to learn how to like care for somebody as much as I care for myself.
Kids that's, you know, that was raised the same way I was raised, with their hardness. I would break that down by telling them to think of the most excruciating thing you can feel, you know, as far as a loss. How would that make you feel? Recognize that emotion, you know, prior to even happening. Now, it's a key word in this. It's perspective. Take that same perspective of how you feel to what the next person may or may not be going through. And that's going to bring compassion, and that's going to bring a bond, a connection, a sense of a feeling of emotion, you know. So concept all the time, Mom say, put yourself in someone else's shoes. You know, your situation can't be as worse as the next man standing next to you.
Just keeping it real. But some of the things really stood out to me that I think a lot of people can relate to, especially men, when it comes to doing relationships. I think, first of all, Chris Rock starts off and he says that everybody needs relationships. And that is so true. Everybody, the hardest gangster, needs relationships. And so oftentimes as men, we really don't want to act like we need relationships. We think that we can do it solo, but we have that need, we have that intimate feeling inside that we really don't never want to touch. I mean, I think about growing up. I mean, you think about it for boys. I remember the time when I fell off my bike for the first time, and my father, he pretty much laid into me because I was crying. My knees were scraped up, and he said, boy, you better get up. Men do not cry. So at the first point at 5 or 6 years old, I understood subconsciously that men should not cry, that men should not share tears when they're hurt, that men should not, you know what I'm saying, go through the motions or really feeling hurt or sorry when they have hardship in their life. And this is something that's subliminal. I mean, it's not like my dad say this should never happen. This is how you're going to be when you're 18. This is how you're going to be when you're 35. No, he did not say that. But what he did tell me subconsciously is that men do not show emotion. So I love that part right there. And then someone else shares about how, you know what I'm saying, you got to love people the way that you want to be loved. You know, and he said outside of his mom and his mother, he didn't really love people like he loved himself. So that's something that he had to learn. And so oftentimes as men, as we're in relationships, we have to learn that. I know for myself, that was a huge issue in my life, learning how to love my wife more than I love myself. Now, I know I love God, and I said I'm going to put God first. And I knew that when I got married, I supposed to have put my wife second above my needs. But still, a lot of that time was between me and myself. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't her. It was between me and then her underneath me. So what I'm saying is this. You have to learn how to love someone more than yourself. And a lot of times, we are not equipped that way. I mean, human nature says, man, just look out for yourself. I mean, you think about babies. I mean, babies is all about me, what they call the terrible twos. But we grow up like that, me. But in order to have a successful relationship, you got to consider your partner above yourself. And again, this is easier said than done. I could go into so many stories about how I am by nature, but I have to force myself or fight to really change the way I need to change. And then Jay-Z, I love what he said. He said that he grew up in the Marcy Projects. He'd been shot at, and pretty much he was a hustler all his life. And he's almost a billionaire. But he said being in a relationship is the hardest thing that he has ever done. Now you think about that. of all the accolades this man has received over the years, all the accomplishments that he has achieved, he said that being in a good relationship is hard. I'm not talking about the one-night stand. I'm not talking about the groupie love. But when he's talking about the relationship that he has with his wife, he said that is hard. And I believe, too, that you really don't know yourself until you're married or until you're in a real relationship, because that's when things come out. And I'm not talking about a yes person or someone who's just going to do everything you ask them to do, because you won't learn anything from that. But I'm talking about a real woman who has her own views, but where you all work together. Because I know in my life, man, I was so arrogant with my wife my first years. If my wife told me anything differently that I did not want to hear, I had an attitude. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't just going off and yelling, but I was shut down. That's how I do it. I just shut down and kind of go into my own little area. But I had to learn that my wife and I are on the same page. Now, I did not learn that, but some men had to help me with that because I did not know. And so many of us, we do not grow up with people in our life to help us or to teach us the right way. One of the clips in the video, I think Will Smith or someone is talking about how you learn all the wrong stuff on the street. And I think the last guy, he mentioned it as well. He called it BS on the street, but it's not right. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is how you treat a woman. You go off, you do this, but it's not right. It's not reality. But the guys who said it was reality to them, and that doesn't make it right. And a lot of times what we do as men, we grow up looking at how our dads or how our role models, either good or bad, how they treated women, and that's what we do because we think that's the right way. So you have to understand that a relationship is very hard. A relationship is very tough. A relationship takes time. And a relationship, you have to look at yourself and figure out, what can I do to be better? I talk to a lot of young guys, especially a lot of these millennials, generation, not Generation X, but a lot of the millennials, and I think some Generation Z, I don't exactly know what age yet, but they're young kids, but they always talk about these lines or talk about, that's not me. I was working with a couple not too long ago, and the guy said, his wife was really just asking him to be more open, to be more affectionate. And he literally said, that's not who he was. It's not going to change. That's not who he is. See, so oftentimes what we want to do as men, we draw lines in the sand. And we let them know that, we let our spouse know, hey, we're not passing this. This is not who I am. Now, it sounds crazy about drawing a line, but that's what we do. We say what we're not going to do. And we might not outwardly say it like this young man did, but our actions show it. But in order to have a healthy relationship, we got to break those barriers. We have to break those walls. We have to make sure that we're saying, okay, forget this. This might not be who I am, but I want to grow and I want to learn. I want to be better. Because I know in my heart, when I was first married, I made those lines. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. But it was all about me again, and not thinking about my wife and not thinking about her needs above my needs. And what ended up happening, I was miserable because I did want to change. I did want to be different. But in my hardest of hearts, my pride stopped me. And so oftentimes as men, our pride stops us from being different. Our pride stops us from really growing the way that we need to. Our pride stops us from really listening and really cherishing our better half or our girlfriend the way that God intended for us to cherish them. But our pride holds us back from being all that we can be. And I had to get to the point where I said, you know what? I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. But you know what? I really do want to change. And when I made that decision, my relationships went, bam, jumped off the chart with my wife, but also the relationship that I had with other people jumped off because it wasn't about me anymore, but it was about what can I be for them? What could I change in my character to help them to be better? And that's when things started to be different. And another thing that stood out to me just from this little clip right here was that a lot of men, we don't know. We're kind of navigating our way through relationships because we don't know. We don't know what to do. And then sometimes when we want to be vulnerable, the woman sometimes might say something that will just man, hit us like a ton of bricks to make us go back into our shell. I think the second guy on the video, he shared that, I guess one time he was trying to be vulnerable with his girlfriend or wife, and she said, wow, aren't you a man? So she made this comment toward him, basically stating that men should not be open. Men should not be vulnerable. Men should not talk about their emotions. See, that was her perspective. But can you imagine how she made that young man feel when she said that? Because when you're open for a man, it takes a lot of work in the first place. So it's almost like she just, bam, she just gave him a dagger in his heart. So he would not be open about anything else. And I'm telling you, women, sometimes we can be culprits in that. You can be culprits in that where a man is trying to be open. A man is trying to let you in. But your words or your tone can be so destructive. And see, with men, we might not voice it. Some might. Like for me, I didn't voice it. I just shut down when my wife responded like that at times. Because I'm a stuffer by nature. And some men, they just go off. So don't you talk to me like that. And then some men, it just kind of, they're so passive, it just passes over them. But those are the same type of men who just go off for no reason because they have so much built up inside. So to my ladies and to my wives and to girlfriends and whatever, learn how to talk to your man. I'm telling you that men and women, we have different needs. Men, we want to be respected. I think respect goes both ways. But men, we have to make sure that we respect our wives, and women, you got to make sure they respect your husbands, girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever. But on the flip side, men need to make sure that, women need to make sure they support their men. If a man feels supported, he can do a lot of great things. But if he feels torn down every single day or that you're critical of him, I mean, he'll go into a shell and leave. Now, women, on the other hand, they need to feel encouraged and listened to. And they need to know that you, men, love them, that you cherish them, that you're their flower, that you're their blossom. I mean, that you're everything to them. And they need to be heard. Going back to that communication piece. Like I always tell my clients, communication is the key, baby. You got to have that communication thing on straight, because if that communication piece is wrong, your sex life will be off. You know what I'm saying? Finances will be off. You know what I'm saying? A lot of arguments and disagreements in a relationship if that communication piece is not strong. So I hope that this little webinar gave you something to think about, but I'm really encouraged by what Jay-Z has put out, because I think it's really going to open a lot of eyes, you know, and also I think men now will want to talk about it. As before, they didn't want to talk about this. They just thought this was something for wimps, you know, if you're open, wimps if you're vulnerable. I should know how to be married. I should know how to handle my business. But we don't. We don't. I mean, you look at the divorce rate right now is 48.6% in America. So with that saying that almost 1 out of every 2 marriages end in divorce. And that's a staggering statistic. And that's what we need to try to break. So if you want to, you know, talk to me more, or, you know what I'm saying, give me some feedback about this webinar, I would love for you to. Or if you want to get more advice about the services at Transforming Couples, please look at all the contact information below. But I really do appreciate this opportunity that you spent with me as we talk about, you know, can a man be open and still feel safe with no penalty? My name is Dr. B. Pope with Transforming Couples, where we're changing the world through one couple at a time. Have a fantastic rest of the day.